Thank you guys for joining us. We're gathered here today for our start of our second season, Bernie for Your Thoughts, which is the Undergraduate podcast for Baruch College. Basically, this is where myself and the team, we speak to current students, alumni, faculty, and staff to get an inside glimpse of the Baruch community, and so that's what this podcast is for. And so I'm here today with two guests for the start of the second season. So I'll just have y'all introduce yourselves. Drew, if you want to go first.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, thanks again, Michelle. Good to be on the pod with you. I won't do a super long introduction, but I'm Drew Georges. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I'm a Baruch College alum. I graduated from the Weissman School, studied corporate communication and English. Part of a few different clubs on campus, which we'll probably get into. But yeah, my path after college was to go into tech. So during junior year, I interned at Google, and then I was able to get a full-time offer and work at Google across a few different roles. And then after that, I went into Poshmark because I just wanted to get closer aligned to like my fashion interests, and so. At the time, that kind of felt like a hybrid of like tech and fashion, a world that just wasn't too different than what I was used to. And then most recently, it kind of transitioned into higher education. So I think that's how we kind of like originally reconnected. But yeah, excited to be here. I think I already mentioned all of the years that, or I didn't say the year that I graduated, but we could leave it.
Yeah, we can touch upon that. You don't want to date yourself.
Yeah. Basically, the takeaway is that I'm an alum. I'm the dinosaur of this
group.
Of the star-studded panel right here.
Yes.
Yeah. So over to you, Maliq.
I'm Maliq. I'm currently a sophomore at Baruch. I feel like my goal at Baruch is basically just try and be as involved as possible on campus, trying to put as many things in my resume, like just get as many connections as possible, just so I can be like successful in the future and have all these connections. And I currently study marketing and communications is my minor.
Yeah, so that's awesome that you mentioned that you want to get as involved as possible, because that's kind of the topic of today's episode, which is how to maximize your time in college, the importance of connections, and how that translates like while you're in school and out of school. So I know, Drew, you said you weren't going to date yourself, but I'm going to date you. You're class of 2017. Yep, I'm class of 22, and you're going to be class of 2026. Yeah, so I guess, Drew, if you want to touch a little bit upon, I guess, more in depth of your experience as a student and how you felt that translated in your postgraduate career, and now you working with students, what are the trends that you see, and just whatever else you want to say. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, so like I had mentioned, I was a part of a few different clubs on campus, but I think the 3 or 4 main organizations that I was associated with is one, WBMB, so I have my own radio show. WBMB is still a thing, I believe, on campus, and so for anybody who is interested in like having your own radio show, ours was it was similar to like the Breakfast Club, but we were like a watered down version of the Breakfast Club, if you could think about that. So we kind of had like hip hop centric conversations. We brought on a few like very, very local emphasis on local guests. So we didn't have any like big time celebrities on there, but I think that allowed me to like tap into my creative side. And then moving along, I was also part of the Lexington League, the great Lexington League. And I think that allowed me to tap into more of my social side, right? Connecting with prospective students, giving tours on campus. And I think overall, just like, tapping into that social element. I was also part of the UMLA, or the Urban Male Leadership Academy, which is technically not a club on campus, but it's a program within the SEEK department. And they focus on increasing the retention rates and graduation rates of men of color. And I think that was really helpful for me because, I was surrounded by a community that was kind of moving in the same direction as me, and we were able to take advantage of some of the resources off and on campus, right? So those are the three main spaces that I was in that are associated with Baruch. And then outside of Baruch, I was a part of a professional development program called MLT, or Management Leadership for Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you're familiar with the program. There's a lot out there. There's like SEO, ANY, America Needs You. They may have changed the name, so if this is off, don't
quote them.
Don't come in my DMs and be like, you know how the internet is.
For sure.
SEO, ANY, like there's a slew of professional development programs, but similarly, it surrounds you with people who are kind of like on the same path as you of trying to secure internships, better yourself, right? As you're looking at 6-month period, am I learning skills? Am I learning things that maybe I didn't know 6 months ago that can help me post-grad? So MLT was huge because they work with corporate partners, and through MLT I was able to get exposed to Google, like I had mentioned earlier, and did the rounds of interviews. And I'm just like speeding through it, but the rounds of interviews, and then eventually got into tech after college. But I will say that there was a little bit of, even though Google was a great opportunity and I would do it all over again, I think I stepped into that space wishing I had taken more advantage of some of the things on campus, just so I can develop a little bit more leadership skills, figuring out what my interests are, because you'll ultimately only learn through trial and error, right? And it's really hard to do that while you're at work, because you're balancing like these deliverables that your boss is giving you for 40 to 50 to sometimes, depending on what industry you're in, it's like 60 hours a week, right? And then after you do 60 hours a week, then you're saying, okay, let me invest this other time into figuring out what I ultimately want to do for my career. So I was in a place where I loved the company that I was working at, the roles I didn't love. But the reason why I ended up in a place like that is because I didn't spend enough time at Baruch figuring out what is it that I truly, truly, truly want to get into. I had some kind of idea, right? But I had just barely scratched the surface.
Right.
So I think the message here to the students, which Maliq, I'm really excited for you to get into how you're actually taking advantage of the resources on campus to figure out what you want to do post-grad. I think the message here and the takeaway is that, it is extremely crucial to take advantage of clubs like Lexington League, WBNB, if that's what you're interested in, or whatever it is you're interested in. We have Kayla behind the camera, who's such a great artist, right? Blown away by her design. And so whatever it is that you love or you have a knack for, just like spending time, investing time in that, because that's what's gonna kind of guide you as you're figuring out what is the next step in your life. And I think just to really quickly to wrap it up, the reason why that's extremely important now more than ever is because we're seeing advancements in technology, and what that's doing is it's actually automating a lot of jobs. And so when you graduate school, a college degree is no longer enough, and it was no longer enough for a while, but now it's like it's really not enough, and you need skills and experiences. You need to be a craftsman at whatever it is that you do, because a lot of companies were hiring for generalists, like those roles are being
obliterated.
Obliterated. They're now becoming obsolete, and then you have companies that are hiring new grads, but when they say new grads, it's almost like they don't have as much patience to teach, for you to learn on the job necessarily, right? And there are going to be things that obviously you do need to learn on the job, but I think like just prepping yourself as much as you can is going to set you up for success for a heightened competitive world. Like right now, I'll stop there because I don't want to go too far, and I'm going to elaborate. I'm going to elaborate.
And then
down
it's the Drew
line.
show.
I don't want it to be that. And I know it sounds like, very like alarming or sense of urgency from my side, but I feel like I have an invisible, what's that thing like when you're in the street? It's like those big microphones.
Like a megaphone.
A megaphone.
Yeah, a megaphone. Yeah.
I have an invisible megaphone right now because I'm seeing like the trends of what's happening with companies and automation and all that kind of stuff. And I think in the next 5 years or maybe even sooner, right? I'm generally not like a conspiracy theorist or someone who likes to look into the future, but I think like, we're gonna really, really see a wave of jobs being obsolete, and so the more time you can spend on campus, trial and error, figuring it out what you actually enjoy, and some of it is gonna be a traditional path through internships. Some of it is just like if you think you have a thing for broadcast, for journaling, like sign up for the Ticker, sign up for WBNB, right? Like take advantage of these things because you want to make sure that when you have your cap and gown on, you know as much as you could have known, right? And even if you don't have it fully figured out, you need to have it like at least ideally like 85 to 90% figured out for that season of your life. Yeah. Because things are going to change every 5 years or so. But for that season of your life, that's ideally where you want to get to. So I said a lot. Maybe Maliq could share a little bit about, how, or I don't know if you want to talk about how you're taking advantage of opportunities on campus, or Michelle, if you want to go first about how you took advantage of opportunities on campus, and then we can
go to Maliq, the low-key star of this show, because you're the current student.
And in the middle.
And you're in the middle too. Right. No, I think I'm going to borrow your invisible megaphone, because I think the sense of urgency is needed, especially for the viewers that are going to be watching this, because they're most likely going to be prospective students and families. And as someone who works in admissions right now, I work with a lot of current students and prospective students, and so I get the same question on both ends, which is how can I like maximize the time that I have here? Because 4 to 5 years, it seems like a lot, but it's really not. Right. Especially as someone who I just graduated almost 2 years ago. I wish I could have like gone back and done a little bit more than what I did, because now I'm like at the 60 to 75% where I had it figured out by the time I graduated, but I'm still figuring it out, and how to put that in, like figuring it myself out, and the personal development while working a 9 to 5, and having a personal life as well. So that's all I'll say, because I can also go on a tangent about my experience, especially because I was a pandemic graduate. I finished my degree during the pandemic. My last semester was when we came back. So that was fall of 21. My degree got conferred in January of 22. So I think while the college did its best to provide, a well-rounded experience during a global lockdown, there's still times where I'm like, well, I was a student before the pandemic, so it's kind of like beating myself up, like, why didn't I do X, Y, and Z? So I hope, Maliq, what you can take from the two of us as being alumni, maximizing the rest of your time that you have here. But I'm curious, I mean, I know you and we've had our conversation, but for the folks that are tuning in and watching, like, what's your story? What are you up to at Baruch? And I guess whatever else you want to share.
Yeah, so like in my freshman year at Baruch, I was very lazy, to be honest. Like, to be frank, like I did nothing. I would go to school and then go straight home. But in the spring,
are you saying that with the megaphone?
Oh yeah, with the megaphone. Actually, maybe not with the megaphone.
Let's not announce that.
Yeah. But my seat counselor, Monica, shout out to Monica, she actually recommended me to be a peer mentor. So originally I was like, do I really want to be a peer mentor? I don't really want to be involved at school. Like, I don't know. But I really thought about it, and I was like, honestly, this would be a good opportunity getting out of my, just taking the opportunity to try new things. Right. So I took the opportunity. I was a peer mentor over the summer. And honestly, it was really fun. And it just made, I was surrounded by, other peer mentors too, and, the seat counselors and whatnot. And it just, it motivated me in a way to, just want to be better. Because I feel like being surrounded by, people your age, being motivated to do big things, it just makes you want to do those, be better. What do I really like to do? So in my sophomore year, that was in the summer, but now I've been getting into, I'm in 4 different clubs, and I've actually made my own club. Oh, okay. It's called Recognize. It's a modeling club.
Oh, look at that.
Because I like to modeling on the side, and I'm really into fashion, so I'm Baruch doesn't have anything like this. So I'm like, why not bring it to Baruch? Why not bring the creative side to Baruch? Because I know Baruch, CUNYs in general are generally seen as like shy, antisocial schools, which honestly is a little true. So I'm trying to bring the creative aspects to Baruch, and like just I want to do stuff like in my club. I want to do stuff like fashion shows and let people show off their creative talents. Unrecognized people, like no pun intended, but like unrecognized people showing off their skills and being recognized. So that's why I call the club Recognized. By the way.
Wow. So this is like a mic drop or
or a megaphone drop.
Type of moment. And really quickly, just to comment on what you said. I love that. By the way, that so we all know each other, but I asked Maliq to come on the pod because I just thought it was dope that he was on the campus, right? And there's no club that you see fits for you. So you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna create the opportunity. And so for those people who are listening, so and this is like a philosophy in life too, right? Like sometimes things are just not going to be laid out there for you to choose from. And so it's about, okay, cool, how do I connect with the people who are offering a platform for me to create a space for myself and for other people who might be interested at Baruch, right? So maybe later you can talk a little bit about the process of like how you did that and connecting with USC. But I was going to say what I especially love about the club that you're creating is that it's an untraditional path to develop skills. And I put air quotes around untraditional because that's not what I actually believe, but I think that's kind of the world that we live in, where professional development and putting yourself out there means you have to have a suit and tie on. It means you have to be doing an internship at a Fortune 500 company. And while all those things do allow you to develop certain skills, and while a club on campus isn't necessarily a one-to-one comparison to those internships at Fortune 500 companies, I think a lot of times people overlook the fact that you're still developing a lot of skills that are 100% transferable to those internships. And that's a great example of what I mean by just like putting yourself out there. It could be the traditional route of, I'm gonna do this part-time job, or I'm gonna go to this career fair, or it could be something like, hey, I'm really interested in like modeling fashion and like creating spaces. How can I do that? Because who knows? Like maybe that turns into you put on a fashion show. You connect with one of the producers, like you hire a vendor who comes to Baruch, and then from there that can like jumpstart either a side hustle or an actual career going down that lane. Or if it doesn't, you can do it and be like, hey, this is actually not what I want to do as my career. I'd rather keep it as a hobby. But either way, you're still going through that exercise of figuring out what do you want to do. Is that trial and error, so that when you graduate, you don't have to ask yourself, hey, like, am I interested in creating a fashion club? Or like, would that be worthwhile? You know what I mean? Because now we're moving into a space, like I said, where it's like time is of the essence. And it's not to say that you have to have everything figured out. Like there's things that I'm still figuring out in this new phase that I'm in higher education. But I think, if you can graduate with doing everything that's within your control, meaning just putting yourself out there and like exploring your actual interests, then you're better set up for success. So do you want to talk a little bit about like how, like what the process of Recognized, like setting that up?
So Recognized is like, this is something that I came up with in the summer while I was a peer mentor. So it's like, I came up with it like with my team. Shout out to them. They're amazing. They've been very helpful. But it was just like, I was like, wow, I like modeling. And I'm like thinking like, why is there nothing like this at Baruch? There's no like, there's like a lot of great clubs at Baruch, don't get me wrong. But I want to get something like very creative. And I feel like there's a lot of like, I didn't even know this until I made this club, but there's so many talented and creative people at Baruch that you don't even know because they're like, they don't have the opportunity to really showcase it at Baruch. Maybe they do outside and like, they have like a photography page or something. But like at Baruch, you really see it. And like I've had like photo shoots and like we've had like small events, like just, to like set up, because this is a new club, so it's kind of hard setting it up. But like we've seen like the process, and honestly it's been fun. But the new club like process at Baruch, it's hard, I'm not gonna lie. Like it it wasn't easy to get this, like, set up the steps. Like,
Yeah.
it's like only need a few things, like goals, like constitution, members, but it's just like that slowed it down. So like we're still kind of in the process, but like I feel like we're ready, and we're ready to like do big things at Baruch. So hopefully next semester we can have like a big fashion show. We have like a lot of ideas in mind. So I feel like hopefully in the future we can get like as many creative people as possible and like put something together like really like cool. Yeah.
It's all about legacy.
Right.
You got to start somewhere, and it's like that saying, as you were talking about, you know, things that were slowing you down. But it's about resilience and just keep going. You have a message that you want to share with everyone, which is that you can, you know, have that creative aspect while you're still in school.
Right, yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to look for it outside. Like, you can have both. You can have best of both worlds. You can do it outside in your free time. You can also do it while you're in school. So that's what I want to touch upon, just legacy, resilience, because that's something that ChatGPT does not have.
Right.
They do not have the means to start like a legacy like that. They don't have the, I guess, creativity that you and your teammates have, and you know, the resilience. I feel like if ChatGPT gets a virus or something, it's done. It's shut down. It's shut down. You know, if they had a Wi-Fi outage, that's it. There's no more ChatGPT. But yeah, that's so cool. Like, I didn't even know that there is a modeling club at Baruch, and there are over 100 different types of clubs at the college. Many of them which were started by students who didn't have the platform initially. They had something that they wanted to share with the rest of their Baruch community, and they just started it. So I think that's just the importance of showing up in whatever space. Whether you're the founder of the club, you're a committee member, you're just supporting from the sidelines, whatever it is. And I think that's why we gathered here today, to talk about, you know, us reflecting on our time at Baruch.
So what is one thing that you're actively working on? And the reason why I asked that question is because I think, like, even though we graduated, it's never too late.
Yeah,
it just happens a lot slower. The rate at which you can explore and like develop outside of your you know, main priorities or your job, it's a lot slower. Yeah. So you get answers that you're looking for a lot slower than when you're in college. I think. But just curious to know, like, obviously you're working on Recognize, but like, what else? You know, what's one thing that you all are working on right now?
The first thing that comes to mind is the podcast. You know, when I was younger, and like even when I was in school, like early on, I always liked watching YouTube videos, watching creators, and everyone has their different platforms and their different styles. You know, like for me, I watch a lot of beauty YouTubers, you know, makeup, skincare. So while they may be reviewing the same product, they have different ways in how they speak to their audience, editing, what they choose to review and whatnot. And so the podcast has given me a way to explore, I guess, that hidden part that I didn't get to explore when I was a student. I knew the radio station existed. I knew there were opportunities for me to get involved in film or production or something like that, where I was in front of the camera and speaking, but I just never capitalized off of it because of my own shyness. Like, I was 18 years old. I had no idea what I wanted to do. Barely knew what I wanted to major in, let alone, you know, what kind of project or side hustle I wanted to do. So now as an adult, you know, shout out to my bosses and the team that I work for, that they've given me leeway in this creative adventure, because it's not in my job description. You know, like, I have to do X, Y, and Z before I get to do this. And so this is something that, you know, we started last year, and it's been a lot of fun. You know, it's not as super high tech. We don't have a huge budget for it. It literally is just myself and the two girls in the production team doing all of this. But it's like I said, legacy, resilience. You know, there were a lot of obstacles in the way when we first started this. Like, we don't have as much money or enough equipment that you'll need to do something like this. But I was like, I just need a camera, lighting, and 2 other people to help me out with this. And now we're embarking on season 2, and who knows what else will happen. Who knows, maybe this is the one episode that goes viral, and you know, I get a job from MTV, and they're like, oh, we want you on a podcast or a talk show. So I guess that's the one thing that I'm working on right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say at Netflix, cut the check. But no, jokes aside, I think that's dope. That, like, this conversation that we're having is literally a real-time example of what you're working on and what you're passionate about. And I could relate to what you said about being a little bit shy when I was on campus and not putting myself out there, because I actually wish that I was a part of like fashion shows and model and all that kind of stuff. And I got to do it after Baruch, and there's still some projects that I'm working on right now. But to your point, it's like, all right, your list of homework is just a lot longer because it involves rent. It involves like laundry. I mean, and you do have to do laundry, you know, when you're in college. But like, I don't know, the list of
more responsibilities.
On average, everybody has their own story. I don't want to make blanket statements, but like on average, it'll increase when you graduate.
Yeah.
So, you know, that definitely resonates. I would say one of the things that I'm working on right now is so I've always been somebody who's thinking about like what's next and like the future, and even this conversation I wanted to have it because I just saw the advancements in technology and how that's going to impact, or technology being AI specifically, and how that's going to impact a lot of the jobs that students are going for when they graduate, right? But one thing that I've always struggled with is looking back and like studying history and being informed on just historical facts and what's going on, right? And so it's created imbalances in my life, right? Because I'm always just like focusing on what's next and the new thing, and that's good too, like being innovative and like next. But sometimes you have to just like slow down, live in the present, and also like study the trends from back then to predict like what will happen in 2-3 years from now. And you actually work less because you're spending less time, because like history repeats itself, right? So you're spending less time trying to predict what's going to happen, and you can just like look at history in the past, and just overall being more worldly. So one way that I'm doing that is by listening to a podcast every morning, or at least Monday through Friday. It's called Morning Daily Brew, and it's like 30 minutes. I definitely recommend it to a lot of students, and actually a student that I recommended it to, he told me that he went to a finance interview, and one of the questions that they asked him, which is like, what's the most recent company that just IPO'd or just went public? He didn't know the answer to that. And that answer was something that they discussed in the Morning Daily Brew. So it's like a one-stop shop for current events, but also like historical facts too. And they just have conversations of things that like you should be aware of what's going on in the world, and then they relate it to maybe like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, hundreds of years ago. And I think like that's good in general, but even like when you're having conversations with recruiters and all that kind of stuff, that's definitely something to be hyper aware of. And in fact, like another thing that you would think I'm getting paid for Morning Daily Brew, but I'm not.
This is not sponsored by Daily Brew, by the way.
But one thing that I learned on Morning Daily Brew was, so Sweet Green. Everybody's heard of Sweet Green.
Oh my God, yes.
I love Sweet Green.
Everybody's probably been there. But what they're actually doing is one of their stores in Illinois, I think it is, they're actually testing out, as we speak, robots making the salad and serving the salad to
That's
people.
crazy.
That is crazy.
So along this topic that we're having of technology just like completely taking over, or technology disrupting more industries, which we've seen that, I think, I don't even know what year that was, but when .com first came around, he definitely doesn't know the answer to that. I don't even know the year. I don't know the timestamp on that. But what I'm saying is like, based on what I heard in history, right, there was a moment in time where technology was on the rise, and they call it, I think they call it like the .com boom or something like that.
The .com boom.
Because it was like the internet, like we were moving from encyclopedia to the internet. And then now it just seems like V2 of that is happening, where it's just like, okay, we're moving from the internet to like robots to automation. And so, I don't know, I thought that was like very alarming, because yes, it does solve for like convenience and efficiency, but my takeaway from that is that, if companies are starting to test this out, once one company gets it right, everybody else is going to copy.
Right.
True.
And that means that if someone graduated college or didn't graduate college, whatever their situation is, that job that they could have had at Sweet Green is now eliminated, right? And the price, we're seeing the price of everything go up. Inflation is an issue, right? Minimum wages, like, it's like nothing. It's like,
it really is the minimum.
Right.
The bare minimum. The bare minimum.
It costs so much to live. So I think all that to say, the black and white solution to this, of course, it's not as binary as I'm trying to put it, but I think for the sake of just trying to find a solution, we're moving into a world where it's like people are paying you for a skill that you have. And that was always the case, but it feels like there was, or in the past, there's a little bit more leeway, and you could be like more of a generalist and not really, have certain skills, and companies are still willing to hire you. Now we're moving from like generalists to SME or subject matter experts, and it seems like subject matter experts are the new generalists, which means that there's less wiggle room to like not know certain things, which then means you need to take advantage of everything on campus, put yourself out there, whether it's the traditional path, like going to career fairs and all that kind of stuff, or it's the untraditional path, again, air quotes, untraditional path, like starting your own club, right? But I think the whole point is to put yourself out there, become a craftsman at whatever it is you're interested in, because you never know like what that's going to lead to, and it's more important now than ever. So please, that's the only takeaway from this episode. I'm done talking. I feel like I said everything I needed to say. Maliq, over to you. We're not all as cool as you and started out on campus, so I'm excited that you're kind of putting yourself out there. So
you're showing up in ways that we couldn't show up at the time, and I think that's what prospective students look for the most, is like the one person that they're like, oh, this person isn't following a, again, quote, traditional path and is out doing their own thing, because with the rise of AI and all these
new
technologies, you just want to be, like Drew said, good at what you know and what you do, and finding your passion and finding, I guess, the one thing that fits you, so you can take that anywhere. But you were gonna...
Yes, the question is, what is one thing that you're actively working on, or like one way you're putting yourself out there to develop?
Honestly, I feel like just trying to be different than like, not, I don't want to say be different than everyone else, but like in a way, like because I feel like at Baruch, a lot of the people like are kind of on similar paths. Like they all like finance majors, they all want to go to finance internships, do the same thing. I'm not saying like no hate to them, like they're doing their thing, but I'm feeling like
we love
the finance,
love our finance bros.
But like I feel like just making yourself stand out more and like doing different things, getting different skills. I'm trying to learn new skills every day, like meeting new people, like stuff that seems interesting to me. I'm always down to learn new things. So I feel like just like doing that and like trying new things every day. I started cooking like the other day. Like I never cooked before. But like shoot, like now I might take a cooking class or something. Like I don't know. It might be cool. But
who knows? You could be the new Keith Lee.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes,
like,
the TikTok creator.
That's
yes.
the cool thing about technology. Like you just put yourself out there. Sometimes you document it, and like if you're interested enough or passionate enough, and it shows up on camera, then all of a sudden, like you've built this following, and now you have leverage to work with certain brands. So it's definitely like an exciting space that we're moving into. But
I think my generation is in a very interesting time because we're given these opportunities. Like my friend Christian, he's also, you know him, he's also in UMLA. Like he's like TikTok famous basically, and now he's on the CUNY ads. And I think it's like it's so cool that like making a TikTok and like he worked hard to get there, like put him in that place, that opportunity to like be able to do something like that.
And using the technology to complement whatever it is that you're doing. I'm not like shying away from it. Totally.
That's such a good example.
Because you never know, you really could be the next Keith Lee. For those who don't know, he's a food content creator on TikTok. I've seen his videos. He's on my For You page all the time. But that's like one thing that it can't be replicated. You know, like you can't ChatGPT another Keith Lee because he just has a specific way and delivery, and his honesty is just something that you can't buy or you know have machine.
The human touch.
Yeah, he has the human touch,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word. So yeah, he has the human touch, which is something again that you can't
replicate.
You can't replicate. So yeah, I
Should
guess.
Should we reenact Keith Lee for the outdoor?
We can always put that in. What is this episode about? Oh my god! And he has the little I guess stance that he does every time he films something.
The
And
AI standing out, keep Lee.
yeah, like that's just I guess
I got it.
his
It's rated one.
his trademark, and just even the way he speaks is
Yeah.
so particular to who he is, and
He's in Atlanta right now. I don't know if you've seen, but it's been pretty funny. Like, well, funny to me, but like probably bad to the restaurants. He's doing his best. He's doing his. He's being very kind about his reviews.
Yeah.
But he's on a food tour in Atlanta right now.
Yeah.
And basically, like, people are labeling it as like he's exposing Atlanta
Yeah.
restaurants because their food is just not that great, or at least like
in his opinion,
in his opinion, the rules that different restaurants have, like some of them won't let you call in to come pick up. Even when you do order in, they're telling you to like stand outside. So like customer service is questionable. And we all know like the influence that Keith Lee has.
Yeah.
So,
Right,
7 restaurants on TikTok that are getting these like
crazy bad reviews.
Those restaurants are gonna.
So that's been like a funny thing that I was watching. But yeah, this episode's not about Keith Lee.
Yeah, we love Keith Lee, but this is not his fan club. No, but what I was gonna say, like on the topic of that, is that's an opportunity he created for himself.
Yeah.
Word.
So that's an opportunity you can create for yourself as a student, and you are. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is don't stop.
Yeah,
like where you're at, keep going while you're still hot.
Even with you, like you're like on the podcast. I think the most important part is staying consistent.
Yeah.
Like as long just keep doing it, like, and eventually you'll see like more and more success.
Yeah.
I think that's like very important. I'm gonna keep doing the same. You keep doing the same. I think like it's important for everyone to do that, because no matter what point you are in your life, like staying on the same, like if you like something and you're really passionate about it, staying on the same track and being consistent with it is like it always benefit you in the future. Eventually, I feel like.
Yeah, even through the roadblocks, like you mentioned, with the sign-up process and all that kind of stuff with USG. Because I was watching a podcast, timely, right, yesterday, and somebody was interviewing Joe Budden. And if you're in the podcast space, you've probably heard of Joe Budden podcast. And he was talking about how he started like with his version of like a makeshift studio. I think Joe Budden's version of a makeshift studio is different than
ours. Than ours is literally a makeshift
but
one.
The point is,
Yeah.
like you always have to start somewhere. To Maliq's point, and then you kind of just like put one foot in front of the other. That's something that I'm telling myself daily. I don't want to sit up here and act like, oh, you have it all figured out. I don't.
Right.
But I'm just seeing things. I'm just the conspiracy theorist for Halloween, and I have my megaphone, my invisible megaphone, to try and like push that message so that everybody who's here can just do whatever it is that you're interested in, and stay alert of some of the traditional routes too. So maybe that's a takeaway to anybody who's listening, right? Like as we come towards the end of the episode, maybe you could just like write one thing down on whether it's on your phone or you're writing it down in a journal, but one thing that you're either doing and you want to continue to invest time in, or one thing that maybe you had an interest in. For example, you with the podcast. This is a bad example because you're actually doing the podcast, but I'm just using that as an example. One thing that you want to do, and just kind of write it down and say, okay, like what is the first step that I'm going to take? Maybe you could be as cool as Maliq and start an actual show. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's just something as small as like just attending an event,
Right.
as it relates to the club that you're interested in, and then from there, you don't always have to start big picture. You just start like ground level.
Emphasis on that too. Like I feel like you shouldn't even hesitate. Like just do it. Like don't even wait.
Just do it.
Just get straight to it. Because I feel like if waiting and like hesitating is just like you're not doing what you want to do. Even if you don't end up liking what you do or like the new skill that you want to pick up, like it's always worth trying. You only live one life, so
YOLO.
Yeah. YOLO.
Word.
Yes, YOLO. YOLO the ones, yes.
Yeah, we say YOLO.
You gotta ask sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes so you don't like
To the
date yourself.
youngins, YOLO.
YOLO, yes. YOLO. Anyone who doesn't know what that is, look it up. It still holds true to
Urban
this day.
Dictionary still in there?
On Urban Dictionary. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
this
hilarious. This was good though.
This was a great conversation, yeah, and I think it's a great start for the second season, which we're in the process still of season two. We're finalizing episodes, guests, because conversations like these need to be had, and it's not something that you can look up, on our Baruch website, like the real life experience that you have, the real life experience that you're having right now. So that's why we have a vessel like the podcast for students to tune in and see what possibly is out there for them if they choose to apply and commit to the college.
Great.
But yeah, you guys were awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Of course,
Yes.
yeah.
Keith Lee on 3.
Yes, Keith Lee on 3.
1, 2, 3,
Keith Lee. This is not sponsored by Keith Lee.